Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Forgotten Features and Creatures of Monster Hunter. Today we're going to be going over Sand Barioth and Green Nargacuga. Starting off with Sand Barioth, who's fun because you can bring any weapon of your choosing, and honestly you can get away with water, ice, thunder, or dragon. Ice is definitely your best, followed by thunder, but water and dragon both still do okay damage, especially to his fangs. He's super easy to knock out with only needing 100 build up to the head, and his head being a pretty easy target to hit, so you should definitely be going for a KO as a hammer main. You also just want to break those fangs in general, so it's worth doing. Personally, he's one of my favorite subspecies, despite a lot of people not loving desert variants with subspecies, and with examples of Tiger Stripe and Desert Celtis Queen, I get it. But this man is an exception. While it might not make any sense for a very arctic creature to come to the desert, I'm so glad he did. His color scheme's better. His fight's a little cleaner in my opinion. His armor and skills are better. I love Sand Barioth, and I'm so sad that he is forever locked behind 3 Ultimate. But not today. Today's his day in the sun. Starting with the fight. Sand Barioth's unique mechanic is that he cannot jump off walls like a regular Barioth can. He actually has stronger wings and will use them to jump into the air to do his pouncing attacks at you. If that's not going to cut it, he can also make a giant sand vortex in the middle of the arena that he can jump into, spin himself up the upstream, and then launch himself at you like a little missile. On top of this, he is capable of normal Barioth moves. He has his shoulder check, his 180 tail spin, his basic paw attacks, his bite attack. He has a little sand shot that he can shoot at you that will stun you to follow up for a pounce. He also has his slightly longer charge up sand shot that'll form a little sand tornado that you need to keep an eye on because it will slowly work its way towards him. These catch me out a couple times. While his little sand tornadoes are not nearly as annoying as, say, Kushlidor's tornadoes, and I wouldn't recommend wind resist or anything for this fight, they are something you need to keep an eye on. He can have up to 3 of those smaller tornadoes and 1 of his giant tornadoes on the map at one time. Sometimes he'll like to camp at the center of his giant tornado. Just try to hit his tail or paws when he's doing that to hit him out of it. Also, he's just a Barioth. Breaking his paws will make him trip and fall all over himself, especially when he comes out of his big sand vortex, and breaking his fangs will weaken his wind overall. A few skills you can bring in to fight this guy. Regular earplugs will do the trick. His roars are not high grade. You can also bring in some Part Breaker to help trivialize the fight even quicker if you really want to. He has such great hit zones. You can bring Weakness Exploit. You can just stack crit. I recommend just going in with Challenger. Luckily, he has amazing hit zones and pretty good weaknesses across the board, cut, impact, or shot, and good element, so bring whatever you want and just have fun. He really is a pretty easy monster to kind of bully. While not a complete pushover, he is one of the faster monsters, and given the right chance, he will combo you with the tornado into a pounce, which will get you carded. If you're playing relatively safe, you will easily be able to craft yourself some glorious Sand Barioth weapons and armor, which is great for high rank and also pretty good for G rank. His armor set coming with Attack Up M, Heat Cancel, and Evade Extender. Pretty great set. It also comes with a 1 slot, a 2 slot, 1, 2, and 3. So it's actually just a nice set that gives you points and attack and Evade Extender. You can easily mix it into another set to maybe get some earplugs with that too. It does come with Evasion down if you rock the full set, but you should almost never rock the full set. It also comes with a little bit of stamina recovery up, and you can use it to help counteract things like that Abyssal set. However, running it mixed set or running it full set, I find it's a much nicer progression set, or at least a side grade to the Rathalos set for progression, which you'll find yourself using a lot of the time in a lot of the older games, because it's like Attack Up, Earplugs, Wex, Wind Resistance, depending on the game. And it's just really good, so I find the Sand Barioth armor looks nice, and is a cute side grade to use through the 3U high rank and early G rank. That isn't Rathalos armor if you just want to change your aesthetic and still do a lot of damage. Onto those weapons, which are kind of fun. Barioth and Sand Barioth actually split their weapons in 3 Ultimate for the final upgrade tiers, and Sand Barioth actually only has 5 weapons. Starting with his Greatsword, it does 1152 attack for a 2 raw of 240, 35% affinity, a 2 slot, 700 water, and purple sharpness with sharpness plus 1, but only natural blue. Honestly, really good, and interestingly enough, water element. If we come over to a Switch Axe, which has 220 true raw or 1012 attack, 20% affinity, no slots at all, but it has 250 paralysis and a paralysis file, natural purple and a ton of white, so already drastically different than the Greatsword. Then we have its dual blades, which do fire element, have 270 true raw or 378, and purple with sharpness plus 1 and that natural blue again, but a 3 slot. So again, very different. Different element, different slot type, different sharpness bar, different true raw. Then we have his sword and shield, another fire weapon and keeps a similar sharpness to the dual blades, 260 but loses the 3 slot. Really interesting. And then we have his bow. Bow is Pierce 2, Pierce 1, Rapid 2, Rapid 5, so all over the place. I feel like that'd be annoying. A 1 slot, no affinity at all, and 270 true raw. So overall, Sand Barioth's kind of interesting. All his weapons are very different, which isn't commonly seen amongst it, and the rest of his weapons in a way are Barioth weapons, so his whole tree is very unique in that sense. But sadly, none of them outside of maybe the Switch Axe looks too good, because I could see a Paralysis File Switch Axe being a very nice support weapon for a team. But other than that, sadly his weapons isn't really where it's at. It's mainly the armor that you're going for. If you do find yourself wanting these weapons or armor and you're struggling with him, keep in mind that flash bombs, shock traps, pitfall traps all work on him. He's pretty easy to build exhaust on as well, so it's easy to get him to go E and get some extra damage that way. I'm pretty sure you can even use sonic bombs on him when he's getting ready to jump into his little wind vortex and just knock him out of that. He's very easy to shut down, and once you break a part or two, he just falls apart. But all that being said, I really like Sand Barioth. I find him to be a lot less annoying than regular Barioth. Despite having tornadoes, they don't annoy me as much. He's more fast-paced, he's very aggressive, I love his main vortex move, and I thoroughly enjoy his armor. And I'm hoping one day he'll be able to come back. He's not at all related to underwater or anything. There's really no reason they couldn't bring him back, outside of the fact that I just don't think he was that well received, unfortunately. And speaking of monsters that were just not very well received, let's get into Green Nargacuga. A little fun fact about Green Nargacuga here is he's actually the base form, and the one we see is a subspecies of Nargacuga. I believe it's melatonin that tends to give big cats that pure black look, so that's kind of fun. Unfortunately, this main species must not be very aggressive or interfere with man at all, because we never ever see him again, ever. And I think it's partially because what makes this subspecies different than regular Nargacuga is that it's green. And yeah, it's green. All jokes aside, there is a couple differences that we'll get into as we get into the fight. But starting with his hit zones, they're pretty good across the board. Being able to activate Wax on his head with any type is nice. The 60 to impact and cut and a 65 to shot. He's super weak to thunder, even more weak to thunder than a regular Nargacuga. And when enraged, he only gets more weak to thunder. Decently weak to fire, and Dragon's an okay third if you feel like it. Do not bother with water though. But yeah, honestly, you can bring almost any element to this guy. He's pretty weak all around the board. Again, these faster monsters tend to have more weaknesses to make up for the fact that they are just so much faster than you in this game. Speed and aggression is Green Nargi's main game. He's even faster than regular Nargacuga, and can do a lot of the things that regular Nargi would need to be enraged for out of enraged. He also enters his enraged state way more often and stays in it for longer, which if you're running challengers, fucking awesome, but it can make him quite a handful to deal with, which is why the devs gave us a variety of tools to deal with him. When he's unenraged, electric traps work just fine, and when he's enraged, pitfalls work. Do keep in mind that pitfalls will not work on him when out of enraged. This fact is true across the entire Nargacuga family. With a great head hit zone and a low general head placement, it's easy to get a KO on him, especially if you set it up using a shock trap like I did earlier in our fight. He'll go into a pounce-like state that if you throw a sonic bomb at his face will knock him out into an easy topple for more damage. If you break his arms, just like a Barioth, he'll start falling all over himself. Flash pods can leave him stunned and confused. And if all of that is to fail you, just bring Slime Blight. He's pretty weak to it, it explodes pretty quickly. As you guys have probably noticed, I've been getting procs like it like crazy. All that being said, let's get back into his actual moveset. You'll notice I keep flashing over to the sonic bombs on my hotbar. It's because I'm trying to catch him. Whenever he goes into that pounce state, if I can hit him with that sonic bomb, I can knock him over. If you don't, he'll go into a triple paw slam that he can then cancel into either a roar, a double tail slam, his double tail spin, or just a general third or fourth pounce onto you. He has a lot of different moves that can combo to a lot of different things. That's what makes him scary. He's just very fast. Also having the double tail spin, although it became part of basic Nargi's kit moving forward, Green Nargi is where that started. So that's fun. He can also throw his tail spikes at you to zone you out at range or to stun you out of an attack that he'll follow up with a pounce. His wings and tail all extend just like basic Nargacuga, so watch out for those extended hitboxes. If well placed, you can actually stay in between his wing blade and head, right in that shoulder place, and roll into a lot of his spinning attacks and get out of the way of them. Once you learn how to punish Nargacuga, he's actually quite easy to shut down, but getting zoned out by those bigger attacks or rolling out when you should be trying to roll in will easily get you caught out and killed. And outside of being a key quest, it's definitely worth killing him a couple times. His armor and weapons aren't too bad, and part of the upgrade path to Lucent Nargacuga weapons. His armor coming with evasion +2, stamina recovery up and focus isn't a bad set to mix in with a greatsword, especially considering it has a 2-1-2-2-2 slot, so you could easily get crit draw in there to have evasion 2, crit draw, focus, and stamina recovery. Could make for a pretty fun full set greatsword set. Although again, probably just better to mix in for some evasion and focus in another set. Green Nargacuga weapons are kind of fun, and then also split up between him, basic Nargacuga, and Lucent Nargacuga. So he only has a handful of them. But going over his longsword, it has 260 true raw, a 2 slot, 160 paralysis, a ton of natural white, and purple with sharpness +1. Really not bad. His dual blades have 220 true raw plus 40% affinity, which is wild. A 1 slot, 110 paralysis, and a little bit of white and some natural purple. Probably, honestly, meta paralysis DBs, those are nuts. Then his hammer has 240 true raw, 30% affinity, a 1 slot, and 200 poison with natural purple, so that's awesome. You don't even need to run handicraft on that bad boy. The gun lance comes with 260 true raw, a 2 slot, 190 paralysis, long 4, and purple with sharpness 1. His light bowgun, while technically not fully upgraded because it does upgrade into the Eclipse Geyser, I'm going to give him the gunning weapons because it's only the final form and there's different ones for Lucent. So having 230 true raw, 30% affinity in a 1 slot for the light bowgun, 340, 30% in a 1 slot for the heavy bowgun, 240, 40% in a 1 slot for the bow, along with spread 4, pierce 4, and pierce 5. So those are the green Nargi weapons. Overall, they're really amazing, and the ones that upgrade all the way into Lucent weapons just get even more potent, like the heavy and light bowgun. And in general, really worth running, especially for some paralysis late game weapons. Also, as you just saw in the footage there, that's a great example of staying right in between his tail, his wing, and his head, and just being able to keep punishing him no matter how many of those little rotation spins he does. In general, Green Nargacuga is a pretty fun fight. He's just a faster, more aggressive regular Nargacuga, and great practice if you want to attempt the mighty beast that is Lucent Nargacuga in this game. They kinda tuned him down in 3U, or in Rise. If you actually have the chance to go back and play 3U and fight the real Lucent Nargacuga, you will see what a menace he is, and why you should probably do a lot of practice on green, and bring poison resist. As for regular Nargacuga ever making its way back to mainline, it's pretty unlikely. Unless we got a situation like Crimson Glow and Rise, where there's no base form, and we just get the subspecies, maybe? But honestly, I think that's Sand Barioth's and Green Nargacuga's biggest problem. Their base forms are just more popular versions of the fight, and, well, Barioth doesn't have a rare species, but if they ever want a more intense Nargi, they're just going to bring back Lucent, as we've seen, and not Green. So sadly, I don't think these guys will ever come back, despite not having anything to do with underwater combat, and honestly, most of 3U's roster has been lost to time. It's kinda weird when you think about it. It's almost like this game was a soft restart for the series, and then they were like, actually, never mind, went to 4th gen and kept it going as they wanted it originally. But all that being said, I'm thinking about doing the whales in the next episode. Haven't decided if I want to do the sand whales or the water whales yet. If you guys want, you can vote in the comments below. If you made it this far into the video, maybe consider subscribing, dropping a like, but I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching.